So as I said when closing the first session, this panel will be very interesting because we will listen to opinions and wishes of Eastern Partnership ministers. So I will now hand the microphone over to Mr. Tomáš Prouza, Special Envoy of Minister of Industry and Trade for the Czech Presidency, to lead us through the debate of ministers. So Tomáš, the floor is yours, and thank you very much.
Dear Martin, thank you very much. Once again, good morning to everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you also for coming back from the fair outside. I've seen a lot of interesting discussions already taking place, and that is the aim of the whole event, to put politicians and businesses together to talk. And it might seem that this panel is political. We have very senior representatives of the governments of Armenia, Georgia and Moldova, but I think it is not a coincidence that all of the three gentlemen here on the stage have also extensive business experience. And that for me is important because we should spend as much time as possible to talk not only about political issues, but how to connect them with businesses, how to open the European market to the countries of Eastern Partnership, and also to learn what are the needs and specific issues companies in Eastern Partnership countries face when they want to enter the European market. There should have been originally one more chair on the podium for Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine, Madam Sviridenko, but understandably, after what has been happening in the last few days, she could not travel out of Kiev, and they also currently have the meeting of the crisis committee of the Ukrainian government, so that of course is something that must take precedence in the current environment. But we hope that the next time Ukrainians will be here with us, and that we will know that we will overcome. Also, as you heard this morning from Minister Habeck, yes, Vladimir Putin can try to wage his war, but we do everything we can to make sure that he will lose. But without further ado, let me first invite our distinguished speakers to share a bit of their view on the Eastern Partnership, how it connects with the businesses, what can be open. And if I may start with Vahan Kerobian, the Minister of Economics for the Republic of Armenia. When you look at the Eastern Partnership arrangements, and if you could have one wish, what should change? What should help Armenian businesses to make it easier for them to access the European market? What would that be?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for visiting this very nice business forum, and I hope that we will strengthen our ties with EU and Eastern Partnership countries, and also help for the nations of our countries and EU countries to overcome these difficult times. At first, I'd just like to give a small overview of how the economy of Armenia is doing this year. Economy of Armenia in last 8 months period has grown for 14%, and the inflation is less than 10% this year. We think that we are doing pretty well, and many things are contributing to it. I think that the most important thing is that government of Armenia has very aggressive projects or programs to stimulate SMEs and to stimulate investments in Armenia. And one of the very important programs that we have now is called the Economy Modernization Program, that is aimed to improve productivity and efficiency of the businesses of Armenia, and it's very, very popular among businesses, and we can see that companies are even those that didn't have investment plans, they changed their plans and started to use the opportunities that we opened up for them. So, and the second very important thing that we started just recently is engagement of foreign high-skilled professionals. And this is a program that we were inspired by EBRD's similar program that helped approximately 250 Armenian companies in the last 3 years' time. And we could see that these companies improved their productivity by 50% in 1 year's time with the help of ex-CEOs of large European and Western companies that came and helped Armenian companies to improve their productivity. So, going to your question, of course, the biggest constraint to do business in Armenia still remains access to finance. And we talk a lot about it, but we can see that the challenge remains high. So therefore, I mean, and actually, we and our European partners have to acknowledge that that to make a big impact, we have to do big things. So, and small things usually are evaporated and with no big difference for the people who live. So, therefore, I think that one of the most important things that, I mean, if you wish, a wish, is to dramatically increase money supply in the countries of the region that can give a chance to extend large-scale financing to SMEs. Government, on its turn, can subsidize interest expenses so that companies have a cheap finance to grow and to move forward. And we do it, and we can see that this is the cheap financing that is not fueling inflation. So it's investment financing, and it's helping companies to improve their productivity, improve their manufacturing without necessarily affecting inflation in negative terms. So therefore, I think that as Mr. Meredith is also here, I think that it's important that we find a proper structure so that we can use the mobilized finances to really be helpful for thousands of SMEs, not tens or hundreds. I think that we have this channel, and we can work closely together to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think you also pointed to something that I hope will be one of the big legacies of the Czech presidency of the EU, and that is putting together this European political community. Meeting, I know that a week ago I was meeting of 44 European countries in Prague, and one of the big debates during those high-level discussions was exactly how to integrate countries in Europe but outside of the EU into the EU's internal market, how to make sure that the economic growth covers everybody in Europe. That, of course, is a challenge also for many European countries. You see that the convergence has stopped even within some of the countries. So I think we understand the problem, and we understand very well that financing has always been an issue. And there will be a few things coming up, interesting also to the audience. In about a month, the European Commission will present a new European raw materials strategy. Because I think we also realize that, if there's any opportunity to do business within wider Europe, we should do that rather within Europe than be dependent on countries in Asia and countries Latin America, of course not to mention Russia. So part of that big discussion will be also then how to finance these investments. And that's also, I'm very glad that we have both EIB and EBRD in the audience here, because that is important. EIB is Europe's bank, and one of the discussions that is currently ongoing is to exactly expand the mandate so that they can cover more of these activities you just mentioned. So I think that will be hopefully one of the important takeaways and important results we will have. If I may move now to our next distinguished speaker, Mr. Levan Davitashvili is Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development in Georgia, which is an interesting combination, I think. And I see that happening in more and more countries, that economy and sustainable development is put together, because sometimes it has been seen as antagonistic goals, but I don't think it is true. And again, I'm very glad that you can cover that, and also give us a bit of a wider overview, how Georgia sees the Eastern Partnership development and what will be important for you and your companies.
Thank you. First of all, let me thank organizers of this meeting. This is again, I need to express my gratitude to Czech presidency for bringing Eastern Partnership countries to this business forum. And it's a very good occasion speaking with businesses and bringing together politicians and chambers of commerce and business community. For us, of course, it's very important European integration path for Georgia. Georgia really thinks that this is transformational for us, and it's, as I mentioned yesterday, it's our historic choice. It's not only just nowadays policy that we are trying to integrate to Europe, but we have to understand, we have to demonstrate, I mean, politicians, that it's beneficial for the countries. It's not separate for their livelihood, but it's bringing tangible results to our societies, that transforming economy and policy which goes in hand in hand, actually, that is really improving life. When we talk about European integration, of course, for us it's very important that we have very clear association agreement. This is a political part to how we integrate in Europe, how we build our institutions, how we make our country more transparent, more democratic, and at the same time we also think about the CFTA agreement, which gives opportunities to businesses to access to European single market, and this perspective should be realistic. Of course, we understand it's not one-day topic, it's hard work from our side, and we need to invest in this. That's why Georgia is really committed to converge its economy and really get closer to European Union. For this, we already have very clear strategic plan for 2021-2027, where we have approximation agenda, and frankly speaking, we have already adopted 50% of most of our legislation, and really approximated and under association agreement, and over 70% of regulations are adopted in economic part. That means that we are really getting closer to European Union, but this is only political side. In addition, we need to really build strong institutions to be able to benefit of single market and to have full access of European Union. For this, we established different institutions like improved food safety control standards, etc., etc. Again, we applied for in European single payment system that will, of course, allow our banks to operate and do payments without intermediary banks and be part of single European payment system. This is the process where what we see that is a realistic process, how our institutions are getting closer, and we are doing tangible results, and we are doing practical steps towards European integration. Finally, of course, this should affect our trade partnership and increased trade between Europe and Georgia, and of course investment flow. And I'm happy to share with you figures. This year we have high FDIs from Europe. We have in 2 quarters we had €1 billion investments in Georgia. Out of this, around 45% is coming from European Union. That means that Georgia's economic development is going in parallel with the European integration process. And finally, of course, our objective is to be a full-fledged member of European Union. That's why it was a historic choice when we applied membership in March, and June decision that we were granted European perspective is of course very important for us. Immediately after getting these 12 points conditions from European Council, we made a very clear action plan, and the government, the parliament, opposition, civil society, all are together. This is a very inclusive process to fulfill all this obligation, and hope that we will progress in a way that next year Georgia will get this candidate status and proceed in further integration in European Union. And of course we count on EU's continued assistance and support as a part of enlargement package, and we are looking forward to taking full benefit of pre-accession mechanism as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister. I think there's one thing that you mentioned is very important, that sometimes, I remember when we were working on our accession to the EU and we needed to approximate a lot of legislation, sometimes it looks like simply a bureaucratic necessity. But we very quickly realized, and I hope that is also your case, that it is actually also a very attractive business exercise, because for many of the investors it was important that they come into a country that has a legislation they already know. It is much easier for them to invest and then operate in an environment that they can simply copy their processes, copy their compliance rules, especially for financial institutions. That is very important, that they have an legal arrangement they are familiar with. So I think that is also something I would like to encourage, that to also communicate these business benefits of that work, because sometimes it is simply seen as a bureaucrat doing something nobody else understands.
Yes, actually, if I may share one practical example of what you mentioned, it's very true that I was part of this process when one of the leading utility companies, Aqualia from Spain, acquired a Georgian company and decided to invest in Georgian water supply sector. For them, the most important was Georgia's very clear strategy in Euro integration process, how we actually we are defining our water management system for future. And you mentioned how this sustainable development and economic development can be combined, and this is a very clear example how this was, how efficient this was perceived, and from the one of the leading multi-billion companies entering in Georgia water supply market, exactly seeing this commitment in Euro integration process from Georgia's side, very clear vision about water administration and sustainable water management, and that was really their incentive and motivation to make this decision and invest in our country.
Thank you very much, because these are exactly these important examples to share. And final of the speakers, the beginning of the panel is Mr. Sergiu Gaibu, Minister of Economy of Republic of Moldova. Mr. Minister, you also have the experience from the international development institutions, now we on the government side. And again, when you have the Eastern Partnership, when you have all the work now, when working on the accession to the EU, what will be the focus for Moldova? And how would you use the tools we have in your hands?
Thank you very much, and let me first of all thank Czech Republic for hosting this event, which is very timely, very important, and the communication at these difficult times that were hit, all of us were hit by the pandemic, by the rocket sky prices of energy sector, the war in Ukraine that jeopardized all the logistic chains in the region. And we really face difficulties altogether, and only cooperation, communication, and development of common solutions will help us to overcome and to exit as fast as possible from these crises. And if speaking about Eastern Partnership, we have a very good cooperation on that topics, and specifically our minister is working a lot with the European Union delegation. We have great support on digitalization, on SME support. We have reorganized entirely our support agency for SMEs. We are developing now a new instrument of financing, which is also very, very important ingredient of recovery from the crisis. We call it the Fund for Entrepreneurship and Economic Growth for Moldova. We aim to develop an instrument that is similar to European development funds, like in Germany and in Poland. And actually, I would like to thank the German government for the support on developing of this instrument through JZ. And also the Polish government that we're supporting through the development, Polish Development Bank for a twinning project and the experience change and the extended collaboration to create this instrument. And this will be really the pillar that can change the face of financial support to SMEs with a long-term financing instrument with low interest rate, especially now when the interest rate is skyrocketing in Moldova because of the high inflation. We have 34% of inflation, the highest in Europe, unfortunately. And this is generated also by the high prices of energy. We have the most unfortunate mix of energy, if you can call it mix of energy, because it's only one type of energy source and the one supplier. And we are thriving here also with the support of the European Union to diversify, to make programs energy saving, but also retechnologization of the industries, and subsequently to help our economy to recover faster from the crisis that we have faced now. But also I would like to mention that we have a few industries that show good results, in spite of the fact that they will not be able the next year to reverse the negative trends that unfortunately we face, but at least it's an invitation also for investors. We have IT sector that already had sales more than €500 million, with a growth of 35% in 2021 comparing to 2020, and we see that this growth is continuing in spite of the difficulties. We have new residents in our IT park, virtual IT park in Moldova, and the number of employees is growing. So I think this is a very good opportunity, and we see it as an industry that is growing fast. The export reached €350 million, and it overpassed wine exports, but everyone knows that Moldova is a wine-producing country, and now we can call us wine and IT-producing country. And for our size, definitely this is really important. And we have several other platforms with facilities for investors, like free economic zones and the industrial park. And we have here in the room and representatives of our associations from IT, from agriculture, from electronic. Electronic sector is also promising. We had quite good results, and they seems not to go down these times. And we somehow revive the previous experience and knowledge that we had in older times. Eastern Partnership is a close friend of us. We are continuing, and we just recently had an event in Moldova where we passed all the results that we had together in support of our economy. And we really hope that the new program that we are in process of developing, including for the deregulation, improving the access to finance, this will really give a nice support to our economy. But experience exchange, and especially of those countries that are already part of the European Union, like Czech Republic, Poland, and other countries, is very valuable to us, to Eastern Partnership countries. And I think this support will ensure the irreversibility of our path to European Union, and to see our citizens embracing these values and to see the results of these values in our countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. It was very nice to see that when you mentioned wine, Deputy Minister Davitashvili perked up, because he also comes from the wine business. So I think after this panel, there will be interesting Georgian-Moldovan discussion in the background. Of course, the Armenian cognac is always nice. And wine as well. So maybe next time, looking at my colleagues, I think next time we need to have also a wine tasting panel for this event. Sergio, again, thank you very much for mentioning that. I think experience exchange is something that also the Czech Republic has always tried to offer. We will continue to do so. And for us, still, 2004 is not that far away. We still have the memory, not only of the technical work, but also what might have been a bit dangerous, that after we actually got into the EU, then this European fatigue came in. You know, basically, we had the goal done and ready, and the question for the country was, what is the next goal? I think that is also important to keep in mind, that there always should be a vision a country wants to follow, and we need to again relearn that as well. But you also mentioned one thing, and that was the damage to the distribution chains because of the Russian aggression. Now, at the same time, I was a bit surprised. I was looking at the bilateral trade data between Czech Republic and Ukraine, comparing the first half of this year to the first half of last year. And we are at about 93% of the first half of 2021. And for us, it was actually a very heartening experience to see how even the Ukrainian businesses operating 5 kilometers from the front still kept going. And I think finally, we have this practical experience what resilience means, that we can always find a way. And I think that is also the benefit of our part of the world, that we always find a way. And sometimes that is the message we need to show to Europe, that yes, there might be, and there will be, of course, legal arrangements, but we need to be a bit more creative. What you wanted to comment?
Yeah, thank you very much. And we also made a lot of effort to facilitate these logistic chains, because this dramatically affected Ukraine and Moldova as well. And just to mention, there is no queue of trucks between Ukraine and Moldova. So we are very much integrated. So we are somehow a region that is affected altogether. But rather, these queues are formed between our countries and the European Union. But we work very hardly together with the Romanian government to overpass this solution with the support of the European Union, even to build additional bridges, temporary bridges. In time it will transform into permanent bridges, and to have these improved connections. But there is still a lot of work to be done, and indeed the businesses have found solutions for logistics together with the governments and Ukraine colleagues and us in facilitating this process, including in documentation. And we are looking forward also to improve and to recognize the economic operators between Moldova and EU, which is also a very important instrument to facilitate transportation and logistic chains. Definitely the business started to solve these issues, but there is still a lot of work to be done.
Well, there always is. When I look at our bureaucracy, the work is always to be done. And the second topic you mentioned, again, I think is very important, that is bringing the businesses back to Europe. I think it was a lesson not only to what is happening now with the Russian aggression, but also what we've seen with China as a supplier during the 2 years of COVID, when all of a sudden, by a decision of the Chinese government, Shanghai port was closed for almost a month, for example, stopping a lot of supplies to Europe. And I think it is all motivating businesses to rethink their investment strategies, because they are out of Russia, but many of them realize that maybe to be dependent on Asia might have made maybe short-term business sense, but it is actually quite dangerous. So we see nearshoring is nicely called, and I hope that it will actually translate into much more investment also in the Eastern Partnership region.
We are very glad of these policies, and we already, before even this crisis, had a very good economic tie and trade with the European Union. So 65% of our exports are oriented to European Union, and 50% of the imports are from European Union. And this tendency is to grow. Definitely there is tectonic changes, as it was mentioned in the first panel, on the international economic relations, and we need to adapt to these new realities. That's why it's highly important to operationalize all these processes very well, smartly, and to find the opportunities in Eastern countries, and they are present there. I mentioned a few, but please welcome to discuss with our colleagues from business to see the exact opportunities and the other opportunities to make connections. And we can build a new reality which is much more resilient in time. And I think this is the main objectives of this event, but also for the future plans.
Thank you very much. Also, I think what is very important is when we look at Europe, one of the key topics for European economic development was the green transition. Much more attention paid to sustainability, which until 7 months ago seemed simply like a responsible thing to do. But now, with Putin's war, with his tries to increase the prices of energy, we also see there's a very tangible benefit of investing into sustainability. Czech Republic, I think, feels that, I think, doubly so, because we are so industrialized economy. For us, of course, the price of energy has a much bigger impact than in some other countries. But may I go back to Deputy Prime Minister Davitashvili, because you combine the economic and sustainable portfolios. How easy, how complicated it is also for you to convince Georgian businesses to look also at the sustainability, because sometimes the payoff seems to be very far away.
Yes, this is a very good question. Not only for Georgia, this is actually everywhere, because we understand that sometimes we compromise with economic growth when we talk about sustainable development and sustainability. Of course, it usually takes time until you get benefit of your long-term investments and changes. But we try to balance. We have to, and we understand, and we see already first results of this kind of approach, considering in development plans sustainability topics, like, for example, energy efficiency topics, using green energy, renewable energy, waste management, circularity in economy, and so on, because now we demonstrated that these are also opportunities for the business, and in the long run they are more resilient, and they are strong and more competitive. Finally, we want that our businesses are competitive in the long run, and I think that having a very open communication with business community inside the country, in Georgia, we do that, and we succeed in this process. Why we succeed and how we succeed? Usually it's not these in communication with businesses. It's not done like immediately. Usually they are like granted periods for transition and so on. So overall, we try to manage in this situation. We have quite good understanding with the business community. It's a long-term vision. It's not an immediate decision, an immediate change in policy. So the policy decisions that are introduced in Georgia, usually they are part of a broad discussion with business community. If this is shared, then it's of course supported by Georgian businesses. And for us, sustainable development is the strategic path for future. That's also part of our approximation process with the European Union, and we understand that where we have this ambitious goal to integrate further in Europe, of course there are certain conditions, and these conditions should be met, and we have to also bring values to European Union rather than benefit only from being member of European Union. So I think that Georgia in future can be a strong partner for European Union. For this, we are doing a lot of common projects, as you are aware, and Georgia having a strong commitment to sustainable development. I think that is also very interesting for European Union. As you are aware, 50% of our energy generation comes from renewable resources. We have one of the highest percentage in our energy mix of use of renewable energy. This is mostly hydropower, but still it is not fully utilized, and we have huge potential to further utilize hydropower resources in our country. This is solar and wind in combination, and there are many significant projects in pipeline. Tomorrow my team will speak about Georgia's renewable energy potential, like energy transition and so on. This is, I think, that the topic which is now very very important nowadays in Europe, when we face high energy prices, influence from Russia, how we actually can decrease this dependence from Russia, and what are the alternative sources of not only energy but different other supplies. So I think that Georgia is doing good progress in green transition, but also it doesn't mean that we are just simply focused on green transition without considering competitiveness in mind. Competitiveness is another topic, and we want that our economy is resilient in future, and finally our businesses are competitive in a free world. So I think that we somehow try to balance, and we do good progress, even though this is challenging. It's not only energy, as I mentioned, but it's also like waste management, using of natural resources, many other topics which are part of our European agenda. So how we call it, it's usually from the first glance it seems quite costly, but in a long-term perspective, this is again like strengthening our business, our economy, and making it more competitive. So I think that in future, this morning we talked about connectivity topic and so on, having like more direct access to Europe, having better infrastructure, connecting Georgia to Europe is absolutely is important not only for us, but I think that it's also interesting for European Union itself.
Thank you very much. And you're right, the cooperation in the area of energy will be very important, I think, for all our countries. Because Europe has always been saying that sooner or later we want to switch from natural gas to hydrogen. But at the same time, we know that the EU will need to import about 80% of the hydrogen. And again, it makes sense to import them from neighboring countries and invest jointly into this development. So I think that will also be one of the growth areas we all need to look at. And again, it will make sense to invest in the eastern part of Europe, because the infrastructure is very often already in place. It's much easier to do. May I go back a little bit more into looking at the enlargement discussion. And sometimes the debate is, should we focus more on the economic aspects of enlargement, or should we first focus on the political arrangements? And if you had to make a choice, and simply, I'd say Minister of Economy would say economic, but again, it's not an easy discussion, and there are many options, for the Czech Republic. When we look at what can be done, I think we very easily know that DCFTA is not enough. That we need to very quickly move beyond DCFTA. Started with some sort of partnership for enlargement. That, by the way, if we manage to organize that, it would also open the European cohesion funds to your countries. Is this something that would be important for you?
Thank you. I have to say that European Union is our strategic and most important partner in our democratic reforms. And you know that 4 years ago, Armenia has changed this way of development and adopted democracy. And since that, with the help of our European friends and colleagues, we have done tremendous reforms to improve democracy and strengthen democracy in Armenia, and that wouldn't be so successful without the real and committed help of our European friends and colleagues. And now, again, on the political side, we see that our European friends invest a lot of efforts to cement peace in the region and gain a win-win situation with this with the decades of tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and hopefully we'll come to a long-lasting peace in the region. That will also be very very important for the nations of all three countries in the Southern Caucasus, I would say. And I'm a participant of the last war in 2020, but I really think that we have to nail the peace in the region, and I cannot underestimate the role of the European Union in this effort, and I think that they're sincerely trying to help all of us. So, but again, apart from the political big investment that European Union does in the region, we think that there is a big room for the economic cooperation. So when we look at the trade between Armenia and European Union, mainly exports from Armenia to Europe. So this is mainly mining, concentrates and ore. But we can see that there are a lot of products that maybe and are needed in Europe. Again, that will help to a little bit ease the inflation in some small manner, but still. We can see that it can be helpful, but due to some bureaucratic and regulatory constraints, there are lots of barriers to that, and of course, I mean, here we see a lot of opportunity that working together will help to boost trade between our countries. And of course, I want also to share my views on the energy transition. Armenia is changing its energy mix in a very rapid manner, and Armenia has one of the most efficient solar energies in the world, and it's very cheap. And we are working with our European colleagues, mainly Germany, to set up a hydrogen power plant in Armenia, and I think that the project is moving forward fast. and probably in the very near future we will start a first hydrogen power plant in Armenia, which will also be helpful not only for Armenia but also for our European colleagues. So I think that, concluding, I think that politically we are much closer to Europe now than economically, and that's because of shared values. But I think that there are big opportunities also in the economic sector in many aspects, like replacing partially China, like you understand the sizes, but still helping in the European raw material strategy and energy. So there are lots of opportunities. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. One interesting note on the energy transition is that, of course, we all talk about the changes that need to be made, but one of the key topics we're now discussing in the EU is how to improve the permitting procedures, because we realize that we become so bureaucratic, we can no longer build almost anything. So that is also, so yes, do transpose European legislation, but carefully. Sometimes we can overdo that as well, even though the situation is changing. Remember, we started talking about the need of having more LNG terminals for LNG gas coming into Europe. And for example, in the Netherlands, they managed to started planning the new floating terminal in March, and they opened it in September. You know. A few years ago, it would take 5 years, not 6 months. So yes, even we are learning to do the things much faster. We're also learning how to cooperate much more better together. So I think that will also mean that the openness for enlargement, for bringing your countries, there will be much more willingness than I think that would be in the past. So maybe one day we will be thinking Russians for actually bringing us all together in a much faster way than we expected. If I may go back still to this question of economic versus political, because sometimes what we hear is that it will be enough to only open the market, only focus on the economic cooperation and economic interconnections between the EU and your countries. So if I start with you, if this offer was on the table, economic integration quickly, political integration sometime later. How would you look at that?
Nowadays, the economic side is highly important. It's important for citizens. It's important to build the infrastructure, needed infrastructure, both for logistics, for energy, restructuring sector. So the economic side is highly important, including for SME support. This is also a great challenge in Moldova and I think in all the Eastern Partnership countries. But in no case those investments will not be brought to our countries without political support. So I would rather not put the question economic over politics, but only together. So they have to go hand to hand. The promotion of democratic values, the linkages, the political linkages that will bring economic linkages. So without the political support of our countries, in no way we will have sound, resilient economic development and the relations in the region and with the European Union. So I would say and economics and politics for sure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Davitashvili. Basically, I have the very same question because we also see that the more we started talking about integration of Eastern Partnership countries in the EU, the more also the Russian propaganda started working against that. And very often the reaction was, well, if people see the tangible economic benefits quickly, the propaganda will be less effective. But at the same time, I think we just described, it cannot be one or the other. That we should avoid the economic and political, but for people, and I understand the political level, it's much more harder to explain to the public.
Yes, actually, I fully agree that the economic part is very important. I agree with my colleagues that we need to, and I agree with you, of course, we need to show tangible results to our society, and having progress in economic partnership with the European Union, and it of course brings results that is then affecting, I mean, livelihood of our people and citizens, and they see real benefits of EU integration process. But we should not separate political process from economic part, because that should go in parallel, and we should, on the contrary, like slowing down, I mean, the political integration process, that of course strengthen Russian positions in the region, and it's of course not motivating our citizens. And seeing last several decades, like over 80% support to EU integration process, I think that there should be also a response, the adequate response from European Union, Brussels. Georgia applied for membership. We are fulfilling our obligations according to association agreement or DCFTA. Now the Council decision granted us European perspective, this historical decision for us. Again, I'm emphasizing this is very important for us, and we are committed to implement these 12 points that is presented to Georgia, and we are doing this in a very inclusive way, engaging all the major stakeholders of our society, government, the parliament, all the political forces and civil society. So we'll do that, and we are expecting to progress in EU integration process. Again and again, Europe should be presented in the region. We should keep and maintain Eastern Partnership framework. This is a strong message and signal, international signal to entire world that Europe is not stepping back. On the contrary, it's like continues its permanent assistance to Eastern Partnership countries.
I think this is very important, exactly as you described it, to keep in mind that there's always been this rule, at least in public declarations, more for more, less for less. I think that is why for us it was important that when we had these discussions that exactly a specific plan, so that you can actually see and measure whether the conditions are met, and then keep moving. Because I think that was our mistake in the past, that we've been making way too many promises to some of the countries. They did their homework, and then nothing happened. And that, of course, is very discouraging. It is, of course, opening these countries to the Russian propaganda. So again, I hope we have learned the lesson. But a final question to all three of you. Imagine that we will sit here at this stage, I think 2 years down the road. And you had 2 years to work on all your projects, on all your accession plans. How would you describe the situation in your countries in October 2024? What will you have achieved by then? And what do you think will be still the outstanding homeworks on your side? And also maybe expectations from the European side, because that is also something that we need to discuss. That's why we organized the European Political Community meeting, to actually have this frank discussion of how do we actually integrate more countries into the EU? How do we make sure we remain open? That's why also the next meeting will not be in another EU capital, will be in Moldova, except to make sure that I think when we say that Europe should work together, we're serious about it. Because again, as I said, there have been many promises in the past. And I hope that we have learned the lesson of not fulfilling those promises. But again, October 2024. Sergio?
When we were filling the questionnaire for candidate status, we worked a lot, really, during weekends, together with my colleagues from the ministry, but all the government worked hard, and including the civil society was involved in this process. And we have made a hell of the job. And we delivered that 1,800 pages book to the European Union. And immediately after, we met with the EU delegation ambassador, and I said, look, we made a great job, and that's not easy, but we did it. And he said, wait a minute, this is just the beginning. Yeah, I will give you much more work for the upcoming period. But I would like to say that we are really ready, and we have the government is very keen to work hard for that, and not only for obtaining the membership and to fulfill all the requirements of the membership, but also in parallel to develop instruments, and we are already working on that, to really increase the economic development, the infrastructure, and to make the interconnection between our economies, between Moldova and European Union, as smooth as possible, so that in 2024 this unification will be already present. So that's our aim, and we really believe that this is possible to be done. Of course, together with good communication, good partnering, also good connection between businesses, and of course with the support with the European Union and the countries that really help us, including Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, Romania, many other countries that are good supporters of us, and we think this will make possible a real membership of Moldova with the European Union.
Yes, I can only agree with you that we need to, first of all, of course, keep and maintain this Eastern Partnership framework. But at the same time, we have to be more flexible, and we have to have a more individual approach towards these countries of Eastern Partnership, so our Eastern partners. That will, of course, be more efficient in our partnership process. This will be more efficient for the countries applying membership, and also for EU, because definitely, as you said, we need to demonstrate higher grade, higher level of flexibility in this process, especially in this challenging environment. Otherwise, we will not succeed. We can fail. And but we need a stronger Europe. We need to strengthen our positions, and only having this flexibility, and individual approach will allow us to do so. Regarding Georgia, 2 years from now, I think that we will be readier to be closer to European Union, and we are progressing all the way, starting from signing Eastern Association Agreement and DCFTA with the European Union. Again, we are progressing very fast, but we will speed up this process using pre-accession tools, having more support from EU side, and having very clear practical plans. I think that we are progressing in economic development. We are progressing in fulfilling association agreement. That means that Georgia will be closer to European Union. Then, of course, the progress of integration and progress of political support should go in parallel, because this is the only way how we motivate our Eastern partners from European Union. And again, we should bring values to European Union. It's not just supporting countries in Eastern Partnership, and that can be maybe morally right, but practically it should be beneficial for European Union. And today we talked a lot about the enlargement process, about potential of Eastern European countries. We should probably look more towards Eastern Europe. There is a huge potential. We talked about energy, and these 2 days there will be a lot of discussions about energy alternatives, alternative supply from Eastern partners. But this is not only limited with energy or alternative supply, but there's huge other potential of investments for European Union in Eastern Partnership members. So I think that now with these changes in global politics, we can maybe reevaluate our actions and became at the end more efficient in this partnership process, which is of course valued from us, is really beneficial for all Eastern Partnership countries. There is significant progress in both in democracy and economic development, but we understand that there is huge potential for improving our cooperation, and I think that today's conference is one of these very important maybe contributors to revising and reevaluating this policy, exchanging and having this open discussion and having this audience here. So overall, we are optimistic in the integration process, in our cooperation process, and we see more developed, more democratic Georgia, and Georgia who is close partner, reliable and valuable partner for European Union.
Yeah, our cooperation with EU is now framed in two main categories. One is our comprehensive and enhanced partnership agreement, and that is gives us a big room for development, making our legislation, making our processes more coherent with European Union. And the other one is the economic and investment plan that we adopted a year ago, and I think that it's a massive plan for 2.6 billion euros, and that is a good plan too. And if we make it happen, that will be a very, very good contribution to the economy and prosperity of Armenia. You know, I want to go back like 5 or 6 months ago with our Prime Minister. We were in the official trip to the Netherlands, and in The Hague, in the room of International Criminal Court, there is a painting on the wall, a woman, in one hand a small child, Plutus, the god of prosperity, and in the other hand is the olive branch, which is an equivalent of peace, and the picture is just giving an idea that only peace can bring to prosperity. So just because I think that I'm the final speaker now today, and I think that the peace that has to come will bring prosperity to everyone, and thinking about 2 years from here, I wish everyone peace and of course prosperity.
Well, thank you very much. It was probably the most appropriate ending we should have. But if I were to summarize some of the key takeaways also for me, for my colleagues, I think key takeaway number one is you are ready and you're willing to do whatever it takes to be ready to pass the necessary requirements. Second important thing for me is that that is also a task for the Czech presidency and for the Czech Republic, which always was pushing enlargement, that we need to keep the momentum. We will afford it. I think there was never a better opportunity for better integration, for enlargement quickly enough than it is today. So we need to keep pushing for that. Takeaway number three, I think Levan mentioned that twice, even though most of the tangible benefits of close integration are economic, we can never forget values, because this is what actually holds us together. Without values, no economic integration makes sense. So that is, I think, the important thing to keep in mind. Number four, more practical. I think I fully agree. We need more interconnections. business ties, but also physical interconnections. And I remember once I heard this very nice sentence that Europe needs to be so interconnected that it would be too painful to again put down an iron curtain down again anywhere in Europe. That the interconnections need to be so strong that iron curtain will never again make sense. So that is for me takeaway number 4. Number 5, also maybe one of the topics to look at for the near future is to have much thorough discussion also on energy policy, energy cooperation. That is why we as Czech presidency invited last week for the informal energy councils, also energy ministers from the energy community, again to have specifically this discussion, how we can cooperate more closely in the areas of energy, including, of course, energy sourcing from elsewhere. And final point, again, more, this is a business forum, so let me finish with, again, a practical business aspect. What we hear from all of you is improved access to finance. That, again, should be one practical takeaway. That would be this, because we have seen that your businesses, our businesses, are much more resilient than people might have expected. We can manage a lot, and we need to make it a bit easier for them to make it the businesses more viable, and also then to make sure that by these practical examples, people see the value of our cooperation and the integration. Because yes, the integration is costly, time-consuming, but if we show these benefits, I think people will support us all. And with that, again, let me thank Vahan Kerobian, Minister of Economy of the Republic of Armenia. Mr. Levan Davitashvili, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development of Georgia. And Mr. Sergiu Gaibu, Minister of Economy of the Republic of Moldova.
And of course, let me thank a lot also to Tomáš Prouza, who so brilliantly led us through this ministerial panel. Thank you very much. Now, ministers will leave us now for the family photo, and we continue our program here in the room. So we will give them just a few seconds to find a way out of the podium. And thank you again very much for very interesting views. I think we will be analyzing and thinking about what they said quite some time, because I don't remember an event where 3 ministers will be given so much of time to reflect, to speak, to share ideas in such a manner. Very interesting, and we are very grateful that we have them here today with us. So now we will listen and watch a short propagation video from EU for Business, the presentation you heard before, so the same unit, and after that we will continue with the presentation. So now I please for the video EU for Business.
EU for Business, helping small and medium enterprises grow. EU for Business is an umbrella initiative of the European Union that includes all EU support to small and medium enterprises across the 5 Eastern Partnership countries: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine. EU for Business supports entrepreneurs in the 3 main directions: improving access to finance, including concessionary loans, grants, and microfinancing opportunities; business development services, such as advice and training; establishing business incubators and clusters; entering new markets; promoting better business regulation, such as regulatory reform; capacitating policymakers; public-private dialogue. In 2021, EU for Business support to SMEs amounted to more than €896 million. 108 projects across the 5 Eastern Partnership countries provided support to businesses. EU for Business results in 2021 were remarkable. Over 78,000 SMEs were supported, a third of them women. EU-supported entrepreneurs created over 66,000 new jobs, increasing their staff by more than 8%. EU EU-supported entrepreneurs increased their turnover by over 26% and generated more than 2 billion euros of extra income. More and more EU-supported SMEs engage in exporting, and those who already did increased their exports by more than 11%. Key impacts of EU for business support are worth mentioning. The EU supported 9.2% of the 780,000 SMEs in the Eastern Partnership. EU-supported SMEs grew 42.4 percentage points more than average SMEs across the region. EU-supported SMEs generated 8.1 percentage points more new jobs than average SMEs across the region. Each euro dispersed across the portfolio generates 6.9 times more income for supported SMEs. Every 2,874 euro dispersed by EU for business projects generated 1 new job at supported SMEs. In terms of access to finance, over 17,000 SMEs received loans in 2021, with more than a third being women. The total value of loans dispersed by EU for business was over 259 million euro, with an average loan being around 14,000 euro. 39 partner financial institutions were supported. In the business development area, over 55,000 consultancy services were delivered to SMEs. 600 business support organizations built their capacity, and over 2,000 SMEs participated in B2B events. To improve the business environment, almost 600 laws, policies, regulations, and procedures were reformed. Over 100 public-private dialogue events held in 2021. More than 220 government institutions improved their capacity. Delve into the in-depth analytics of the efficiency of EU for business support at the www.euforbusiness.eu website. Find out about opportunities for entrepreneurs locally at the EU for...
So, for our guests from abroad, pardon me, few words in the Czech, right? Thank you. Pochvalte se sami, když se nepochválíte, vy nikdo to za vás neudělá. So we heard, we saw the presentation of the instrument, and now we will go to more specific instrument conceived by the Commission, which is very interesting. And it's my pleasure to invite here a Senior Trade Information Officer, Mr. Paul Kelly, to present so-called Eastern Partnership Trade Help Desk. So, yes. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Dear Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I suppose I will take what my colleague told me earlier, that it's always bad to stand between people and their lunch. So I will try to be as brief as possible so that we can move on with the program. So for me and my colleague Maria, it's a great honor for us to be able to be with you today and to represent the International Trade Center at the Eastern Partnership Business Forum, and to present to you a new platform that was developed through the EU for Business initiative. It provides trade intelligence for companies and stakeholders in the Eastern Partnership region looking to trade within the region and also with the European Union. We are here this morning and today to discuss the deepening and strengthening of economic cooperation between the Eastern partners and the European Union. And our project, the EAP Trade Help Desk project, contributes to this aim. The project itself began in late 2019. Despite COVID, we were able to make progress on developing the project in partnership with different national stakeholders in each country. The key beneficiaries of the project are intended to be small and medium-sized enterprises, business support organizations, whether trade promotion organizations, chambers of commerce, sector associations, and also the policymakers at government level. It has been implemented by the International Trade Center, which I think some of you will know is a joint agency of the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, and it's been supported for a period of 5 years by the European Union. It's well known that the costs of sourcing accurate trade information are relatively onerous for smaller firms, that they in fact may have the highest growth potential. Today, the need to support them is greater than ever, and the EAP's overall objective meets this, which is to facilitate increased trade between Eastern Partnership countries themselves and trade with the EU. One of the ways to do this is through the creation of the EAP Trade Help Desk online platform, an online platform that increases the transparency of trade-related information in the region. We have launched this platform across the EAP countries over the past few months. Most recently, we launched it in Azerbaijan last week. I'd just like to give a quote from Mr. Tural Ajali, the advisor to the executive director of ASPROMO, the Azerbaijan Export and Investment Promotion Agency, who, on being presented with the platform, together he and other business associations in attendance, said that the launch of the platform will be an additional and effective tool for Azerbaijani exporters to fulfill their untapped export potential. And the platform will serve as a first step for the successful implementation of various actions identified under their socio-economic development strategy for Azerbaijan. The project that we're implementing has 4 main themes or focus areas. The first, trade intelligence, where here we are digitalizing trade intelligence leading to the creation of the platform. Within this platform, we're going to add sector-specific export guides on selected products in each country. These will document the trade procedures related to a number of products. For example, in Moldova, we'll be developing guides on fresh and preserved fruit and vegetables, dairy products, honey and nuts. These sectors selected in partnership with the Ministry of Economy in Moldova. In addition, since 2021, we have been liaising with several national institutions on improving the methodologies behind collecting trade and services data. And the result of this training that we've undertaken has been positive, and we hope to be able to add additional trade intelligence on trade and services to the platform in the coming year. Also within the platform, we've created a help desk through which companies can submit inquiries. These can be related to trade impediments they're facing, or it can be for additional information that they can't find within the platform. And to make sure the information in the database remains up to date, we've established contacts with ministries and relevant organizations in each country so that we can get fed this information both during the life of the project and beyond, so the project will be sustainable. We have also launched business surveys of non-tariff measures in each country. They're currently ongoing, and we expect to have the results by the end of the year. These will be presented to the government and private sectors of each country, and the findings will be available on the platform. And finally, to support the rollout of the platform across the countries, our team is conducting a range of physical and virtual training courses for government institutions, business support organizations, and companies in each country so that they increase their capacity to use trade analysis to explore further opportunities. Now, turning to the platform itself, please give me a moment. Okay, here we have the platform live. The first thing I'd like to point out that it is available in all the languages of the EAP countries. This we've paid particular attention to make sure that small and medium-sized enterprises aren't presented with a language barrier when they're trying to search for the information that they might want. As I said, or as I didn't say actually, the module has, the platform has 3 modules: identify opportunities, market information, and the help center. The identify opportunities is there so I can explore different possibilities rather than focusing immediately on one product or sector. If I delve into that module, here my first screen gives me an overall perspective of trade within the Eastern Partnership countries. So from the Eastern Partnership region to the Eastern Partnership region. Here it gives me an indication that there's been a growth in imports over the last 5 years of 4%. And according to ITC's export potential model, we foresee that there is an estimated just over $1 billion worth of trade between now and 2026, so over the next 5 years. I can do the same research and to look for the overall perspective between the Eastern Partnership region and the European Union. Here I can see that there's been an import growth rate over the past 5 years of 6%, and we estimate again that over the next 5 years there's an estimated potential of just over $9 billion, so considerable. From this page I can scroll down and I can get an overall market perspective in terms of the imports into the EU from different countries. So if I just glide across any of the countries in different lines, I'll be given an indication of the amount of imports of a particular country. So for example, here I'm looking at the fact that Italy imports over 7.6 billion from Azerbaijan. On the right-hand side, I get information on the export potential for the top 10 markets in the EU. We use different shading here to differentiate between the potential that's already been realized. So in the case of Poland, 57%, but we see that there is an unrealized export potential over the next 5 years of 1.3 billion. So it looks a prospective market. If I scroll down further, I can get a sector perspective overview. So here on the left-hand side, I get the perspective for the last 10 years of exports from the Eastern Partnership area into the EU, according to the top 10 products. Similarly, on the right-hand side, I get what the export potential is for the leading 10 sectors. I can drill down further in these sectors, if I wish, and I will get that broad sector heading will be broken down into subcomponents, again showing me per sector or subsector what the potential is in each market. That's at the very broad level. I can also look at this from the point of view of a country, say Georgia, and what's the potential to export to, say, Moldova, sorry, passed. And I could choose a particular sector. So, as it's almost lunchtime, I will pick nuts and keep it on a food theme. And here that I see that there's an import growth rate over the past 5 years of 23%, and we estimate that there's an unrealized export potential of $3.2 million. Again, similar setup, I can see the top 10 products being exported from Georgia to Moldova, and I could explore other sectors if I wanted. So there I've shown you what is available in the Identify Opportunities module, and I've looked a little bit at nuts. But if I want to find out more information about a particular product and what I need to adhere to if I try to export that either within the EAP region or to the European Union, I will come into the Market Information module. From here, it's quite simple. I can select my exporting country. I'll take Moldova. I can either type in the HS product code, or more simply, if I just type in, no. It's a bit shady up here. Here it automatically prompts me to see the display of walnuts. I will take shelled walnuts. As I'm in the Czech Republic, I will select the Czech Republic as a destination market. Simply click on Go. Here I'm given a very snapshot overview of the Czech Republic as a global importer of all products. And then on the right-hand side, the market perspective for Moldova as an exporter of walnuts. Gives me indications of the import share, quite small, 3%, but there has been rather rapid growth recently, so 42% growth in imports. And the export potential we estimate has been close to $3 million. If I wasn't satisfied with that potential, I could click on other countries around the EU or also in the EAP region, but I will continue with this search. So from here, I have a display of information across different headings, ranging from tariffs and taxes, regulations, voluntary standards, and business partners. If I click on tariffs and taxes, here I'm given a display of what tariff applies to my product, walnuts. And I see that I have a preferential tariff rate of 0%. I'm also given a link to the DCFTA agreement between the EU and Moldova that's behind that preferential tariff. I'm also presented with information on how I can benefit from that tariff, what I must do in terms of rules of origin. And again, we provide supplementary information to guide an exporter, both with example of a certificate of origin, the different guidance, extracts of chapters that will explain the rules of origin procedure, etc. From this page also, interestingly, because it's going into Moldova into the EU market, I can also get further information on the EU market through the European Commission's Access to Market database. And we provide a direct link to that. That will open, hopefully, quickly. Yes. And that brings me in exactly on the same search for walnuts in Moldova. And it gives me further information about tariffs and other regulations that apply. So it's taken me quickly into shell walnuts and telling me more information about tariffs, etc. So we've taken good care that although this is a platform, we're not pretending that it's the only platform, and we're building links between this and the databases of the EU, and also within the EAP region, we're creating links to the national websites of the different agencies, etc. So we want to, help users be channeled to the most relevant point of information. Then just moving on from tariff and taxes, I want to just display how we provide information on regulations. So here we have a set of tabs that covers everything from domestic requirements through to product requirements, market conditions, pre-shipment inspections. If I click on product requirements, I see that there is 11 regulations that I might want to explore further. These range from geographical restrictions to microbiological residues, food and food processing, etc. If I click on any one of these, I will be given a brief summary about what the regulations might adhere to, and then a link to information on that regulation itself. So here I provide the exporter or user with a summary of the legislation to explain it in fairly simple terms at a high level. And then I also provide a link to more details about the legislation itself, which we draw from the European Commission databases. So here I get further information, more detailed. We run to a number of pages there. So the user can find more information, control of foodstuffs, etc., etc. Again, it will be similar for the other headings. So if it's tolerance limits for residues, again, quick summary of what this area is about, a link to the regulations, and a summary of those regulations, in this case, fairly extensive, and again, allowing me to link out and find further information. Similarly for market conditions, here I'm going to get measures that apply mainly to market-specific regulations. This can relate to authorization requirements for SPS reasons, or for licensing for the protection of public health. Again, the same mechanism. What is the heading about? And the regulations here is the health control of GMO food, etc. Again, a summary of what applies and a link out to the full further information. Under pre-shipment, I get information about labeling, packaging requirements, traceability requirements, etc. So all in one place, easily findable, and again, as I said, in all the languages of the EAP partner countries. Our last tab in terms of the market access issues is on sustainability standards or voluntary standards. Here we draw on the International Trade Centre's standards map database. I get a list of all the voluntary standards that could apply to my product. If I click on any one of them, I get a little bit more information and then a link out to the standards map database where I can find more information. Finally, on this section of the website, we have a link to business partners. So here we provide information, in this case, because I've started my search from Moldova, it's the trade promotion organizations working in Moldova that I might want to contact, trade finance providers, and also access to a business directory, which can give me access to the details of about 120 potential partners or importers that we store in the ITC tool called TradeMap. So again, I could visit that, register, do a search for companies who are importing walnuts into the EU. The final part of the database that I just want to touch on is the Help Center. Here, we provide further information, frequently asked questions, country resources, glossary, how to find a HS code. The country resources are broken down by each country, so I can search on Armenia, and I will get a list of online resources and links into the institutions that are behind that information. So it could be the State Revenue Committee of Armenia, or the Ministry of Economy, etc. But perhaps for companies, the most important aspect of this Help Center module is it allows me to submit a question to a range of national experts in each country. And to do this is very simple. It's a simple online form. I can submit with registering, or I can also submit without registering. So I indicate that in this case I want to find further information about trade information. I'm prompted for links that I might find helpful. I want to say that I'm an exporter. It's exporting of goods. The sector, I can put in, let's say, for example, dairy products. Where am I exporting from? It can be from Armenia to Georgia. I type in my question, whatever it may be. Could be. We aim that it should be something that the user has not been able to find on the platform itself. But in some cases, the questions we get are something that's a bit hidden in the platform, or somebody didn't find it exactly. So they submit their question with their contact details, and they indicate their country of residence. When the query is submitted, it comes to the national focal point in Armenia, in this case, who looks at the question and decides, can he or she answer it directly? Or perhaps if it relates to something specific, a trade regulation or a standard, he will forward it to the relevant organization in the respective country. And again, we have a counterpart in that institution who can provide greater feedback and provide a detailed answer, which will then be channeled back to the company. Then we have a choice to display these answers on the website so that other companies who are facing a similar question could see the answer that we've provided. But it will be up to the company whether they want their details of their inquiry revealed, because it also is a bit of competitive intelligence. If a competitor in Armenia knows that this question has been submitted before, they can probably figure out what their competitor is doing. So that is a quick appetizer of the EAP Trade Help Desk. We believe that it's one instrument in being able to promote trade both within the EAP region and with the European Union. As I say, we've just been launching it across the different countries, and we're beginning to see an increased use across each country as we've launched it. So we hope it contributes, one more brick in building greater trade relations, as I say, in the region and with the EU. I'd like to thank you all very much for staying and not leaving, and I wish you a bon appetit when we get outside.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think that those who stayed here, they've just seen something very interesting and very useful. If you allow me a personal memory, I served in Geneva as a deputy permanent representative to WTO for many years, and many years ago, and I led actively negotiations on accession to the WTO of what we call today Eastern Partnership countries. How that instrument would be useful to me by then. I was dreaming about something like that, and you have it. So don't worry, not everybody stayed here, but we will spread the news so that everybody knows that there is such a beautiful instrument created by International Trade Center. Very big job, thank you very much for it, but as I said to your colleague, it will be hell of the work to keep it actual, to keep it up to date. But do it, it seems very interesting and very important, and we will definitely inform our embassies, our Czech trade offices, etc. And as Mr. Kelly was saying, in the end, the lunch is ready. So we thank you very much for your presence here at the first part of today's program. Now we have practically nearly 2 hours to refresh yourself on a terrace with the beautiful weather and view to Prague, or with the lunch. And let's reconvene at 2 o'clock with the panel led by Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Kurfürst, who will convene again, very interesting and substantive panel on the future of the Eastern Partnership and enhanced economic cooperation with the countries of Eastern Partnership and EU. So I thank you very much for you being here during the morning session, and let's meet at 2 o'clock right here. Thank you very much.